notice for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, next we'll do a roll call. Deanna, if you do a roll call, please.
Member Byrne.
Present.
Member Byron. Alternate Sonatina.
Present.
Thank you. Member Evans. Member Foster. Alternate Member Moriarty.
I'm here.
Thank you. Member Keeshan. Member Lannis.
Presente.
Member Olson.
Present.
Member Riker.
Present.
Member Riley.
Present.
Member Simmons. Member Wilson.
Here.
Vice Chair Weeks.
Here.
And Chair Sarmiento.
Here.
We have met a quorum with Evans, Simmons, and Keeshan absent.
Okay, thank you. All right, next
Chair
item.
Chair
Oh,
Sarmiento, just want to recognize the folks remotely and want to double check and see if two of them potentially might be typically members, so they won't be, I think from a parliamentarian perspective, they'll be allowed and invited and encouraged to discuss things during the public comment period, but from the kind of Brown Act state law type stuff, it's considered an absence is my understanding. So do we want to double check who is remotely attending so we
Sure.
know who to?
They don't always say exactly who their name is listed, so we can't really, you normally don't do that. But Candace Evans is online and another gentleman named Bill. And then we have Matt Kelly, who's a member of our staff. Okay?
Okay, thanks for that
You're welcome.
update. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. Deanna, have we received any written or remote public comment?
We have not received any written or remote public comment. Thank you.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item not part of the agenda? If so, please submit a speaker card or, and staff or I could call upon you.
We have one member of the public, Candace Evans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is just Bill Keeshan.
Oh. Thank you. That was Bill Keeshan. All right. I guess that was the only one.
Okay, I guess you just want to confirm he's attending or participating virtually.
I guess we do have one more from.
One more.
Let me ask to unmute again. Okay, there we go.
Okay, sorry. This is Member Evans, and I just wanted to say that I'm present, although I am considered absent under the Brown Act. Also, we have another public comment at the end of the meeting, and I will make that as far as the community CCTA survey updates. That was not part of the agenda.
Okay, yeah, we'll go back to Member Evans at one of the later items with that update or question or comment. Okay, that concludes, I think, no other public comments. That concludes this item. Then the next item on the agenda is a consent calendar, which is a summary of actions from the July 28, 2025 meeting. Are there any changes or comments from the committee members? Okay, hearing none. Deanna, have we received any public comment on this item?
We have not received any public nor written comment.
Okay, so I need a motion and a second from committee members. So do I have a motion?
I'll move to accept the consent calendar.
Okay, motion by committee member Riley, a second.
I'll
Second.
Okay, second from
Third.
committee member Byrne. Okay, Deanna, if you could do a roll call, please.
Yes. Member Byrne?
Aye.
Member Sonatina?
Aye.
Member Evans?
I don't, under the Brown Act, I don't think I can vote as well.
No, I just call it out. Thank you.
Okay.
Member Foster? Moriarty?
Approve.
Thank you. Member Keeshan? Member Lannis?
Aye.
Member Olson? Member Riley?
Aye.
Member Riker?
Yes.
Member Simmons? Member Wilson?
Aye.
Chair, or Vice Chair Weeks?
Yes.
And Chair Sarmiento.
Yes.
Okay, so we do have majority of vote passes the motion, and Evans, Keeshan, and Simmons are absent.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to regular agenda items, and the first item on the regular agenda is a review of the draft scope of the countywide model agreement and micromobility operations program, which will be presented by Colin Clark.
Thanks, Chair. So this item was brought before CBPAC about a year ago in kind of draft form. And there's been a number of things in the works since then. So this one hasn't gone out for RFP bid for consultants kind of thing. But this is another opportunity to provide input that you all have. Basically, there's kind of some minor updates to the scope to make it clear that it would be a proposed model agreement, so a contract agreement, and not just a model ordinance from a local agency perspective kind of thing. So that was included in your packet to review, and we can receive, verbal and written comments on that draft before that kind of moves forward. That's it for today.
Okay, thank you for that update. Any comments on this item from committee members? Vice Chair Weeks?
I thank you for bringing this before us again. Appreciate it. I kept looking for stuff as an operator. have experience operating these systems, just ground level operating, not the bigger agreements. So this is very high level agreement and doesn't really get much into the kind of the nitty gritty of the day-to-day operations. And I'm assuming that would be the outcome of something like this. We try to come to an understanding of that later. But I just want to make a comment at this time that as a former operator of several programs and projects like that, retrieval and maintenance to me are so key to the success of programs, and maintenance. Maintenance again, because if you get a vehicle or a micromobility device or mode that's not maintained and doesn't work, you immediately give up on the program. And if the operators we choose do not choose to maintain their products, which some operators don't, it ends up hurting micromobility in the long run. So I like the emphasis on safety and things like that, but also I think maintenance of the and coordinated retrieval throughout the region is super important, especially when a vehicle gets abandoned somewhere or is stolen, and someone needs to track it and hold hands across operators to get the stuff back to where it's supposed to be. So I know that's way deep in the weeds and way deeper than what you want to do here, but as I don't know if anybody here else has operated these systems, but I mean, I definitely have operated them. So I'd be happy to continue to give input on this as you go forward on that portion of the project, 'cause that's really where my expertise is. So, thank you.
All right, any other comments on this item? Committee Member Riley?
Yeah, just one small one. I think the scope looks great. I think that it's very comprehensive, and you all did a really good job thinking of everything. And every time I thought that I wanted to see something in it, I found it in the document. I just had one thing about the stakeholder groups. I think it's a very comprehensive list again. I'm wondering, do we want to include cities or anything like that in that? A lot of these are like regional serving agencies, but sometimes, you know, if we are looking for model ordinances for cities, someone, you know, that works at the city level might know more about kind of their needs and stuff there. So obviously not every city in the county or something, but at least maybe having an option for, you know, someone at some of the cities to also be on the stakeholder groups.
Chair, is it okay if I respond? So, Member Riley, are we talking about task 1.2B or
No, sorry, I was talking 1.3.
1.3? Okay.
Let me just double check on 1.2B is.
Right.
Again, you might have it all already covered because
Yeah,
it is very comprehensive.
All good. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Through the RTBCs, that was
Through the
the idea.
RTPCs. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, if hearing, Committee Member Wilson.
Just a question on the timeline of this and when you anticipate this going live.
So the draft scope includes December 2026 as a somewhat conservative, but also somewhat pragmatic / realistic estimate. But if you all have input on what you would like to see or a more ideal or proposed timeline, we're all about it. Like, we'd love to hear it. But we also recognize that there's more than 20 different jurisdictions when you start to include, you know, Park District, BART, almost half a dozen transit providers, to each, you know, come to some sort of hopefully simple majority consensus on what constitutes a model ordinance and a model agreement, you know, similar to what Member Weeks was saying in terms of like, you know, one of the other examples I was going to throw out there is like geofencing and stuff. Like, different jurisdictions might have different ideas of that, and when it comes to parking and storage. And so this is not going to be an easy process, but I definitely appreciate everyone's help in working together to coordinate for hopefully a countywide policy and regulatory framework. But yeah, with that said, open to input on schedule.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I do have a comment, but I'll wait to see if any other committee members have any comments. All right, Committee Member Riker.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how long do you expect this project to take? Creating the agreement and doing all the background work?
I think most of these planning efforts take a year or more. So that would be, you know, my best estimate at this time. And I'm imagining that, you know, some local agencies and different stakeholders might want to see this go through, for example, the RTBC Technical Advisory Committee more than once. So that's going to add to the overall schedule. So I just want to kind of manage everyone's expectations as to overall schedule. But I imagine it will be longer than a year kind of thing, but, you know, again, open to ideas. If people want to see it happen sooner rather than later.
I have a second question is, have many of the jurisdictions indicated that they really wanted CCTA to take this on? Have the jurisdictions said we do want to bring in micromobility again, but it would be great if you could take the lead? I mean, to me, it sounds like a super great idea. So I'm just curious what kind of push you've had from the cities to get this done on their behalf, sort of.
I think generally speaking, since the 2019 Micromobility Forum and the two different policy papers, there has been sustained interest. Off the top of my head, I don't recall if we've had specific agencies raise their hands, so to speak, kind of thing, but there's definitely been sustained general interest.
All right, Vice Chair Weeks.
I can just speak on behalf of San Ramon. We work with CCTA on bringing Bird micromobility to San Ramon. Unfortunately, Bird went basically bankrupt in our area, so Pleasant Hill also had a similar experience with the same operator. So we had challenges, but we had also, at that point, even reached out to CCTA. They were the lead in kind of pulling all us together to talk about and meet with Bird and select an operator at that time. So it's kind of been, it's gone pretty far back. So, and one disconnect there has been in the past where we run into a problem and there's no kind of framework on how to address it. There's no kind of next steps talked about. They could get everybody in the room and get something rolling, but then if it stops rolling, how do you keep it going? And I think we ran into that problem where we were having confusion about how to act on public and private property, for example. And we have a lot of HOAs, and they want to have, access to these HOAs and pods of scooters on their property. And then is it public or private roadway, and what are the rules there? So there's all this detail that I think is the next step that needs to be sorted out. We kind of dabbled in it briefly and did a low-hanging fruit kind of rollout for San Ramon. And then we look back to CCTA and say, what's next? And they're like, well, we haven't developed that yet. So that's what he's doing now, it sounds like.
All right, Committee Member Sonatina.
So you said people can put feedback in on like the speed of it being rolled out. Is that what you're saying? How would we speed it up if we wanted to help cities do that?
I guess just in general, whatever sort of input you all have on what proposed schedule you'd like to see, happy to take any of that input. I thought you were getting into speed limits already. I was like, oh my God.
All right, Committee Member Riker.
Yeah, it's me again. And I don't know, Colin, if you have information or if others on the committee know what the kind of current status of micromobility, makes a big question, is there a provider that's still really has risen to the top over all these years? It seems like a lot of them went downhill, came and went. I was in San Diego recently and I didn't see, that place used to be crawling with scooters and bikes, and I didn't really notice very many scooters at all anymore down there. And I haven't really seen too much, obviously nothing here in Contra Costa. So I'm curious, who's doing micromobility these days, and is it still a thing?
Yeah, so this study will address different jurisdictions throughout California and nationally that have gone through, lessons learned kind of thing. And some that are still in operation, some that have evolved into second and third generation, programs and policies kind of thing. Yeah, we're definitely gonna, that is the whole intent of this, is to look into the other programs and, try not to repeat past mistakes that others have kind of thing. And just a quick point of clarification, there are some existing micromobility programs in place. I think Bishop Ranch and San Ramon is an example. I know City of Richmond and/or other West County jurisdictions have had on and off success with different programs in operation.
Okay, Committee Member Riley?
I was just going to mention Richmond. Yes, they do currently have bike share, the Today bicycles. It is still grant funded, but it does exist.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, I do have a few comments or questions. Colin, the first one with task 1.4, and I'm looking at the deliverables, and I see there's like a first draft, second draft, and final, I guess, outline, and it goes to the, I guess certain drafts go to certain committees, and I'm curious, because I see CBPAC, I'm curious, or I just want a clarification, I mean, do they see the last draft, or do they get an opportunity to comment on each iteration of the draft? So yeah, just a clarification on that.
Yeah, and I mean, this could be a, point of discussion too, in terms of, would you like to see the first draft go through the RTPCs once versus twice, and go through CBPAC after the first round, and then after the second round, when it's getting closer to going up to TCC and Technical Coordinating Committee and Planning Committee and then Authority Board. It's really all a question about schedule. We want to be inclusive and all of that, but also with sensitivity to schedule. So yeah, it's up to this group to decide how you all want to see it.
Okay, if anyone has any committee members have any comments on, I guess, the frequency or what level of review of the draft agreement ordinance, if you want to see it at the end after it goes through all the other committees first, or should we want to review it more frequently as it goes through that whole process? And I don't know if we have comments now, or if no one has comments now, we could always follow up with Colin, but just question for the group here. All right, can you remember?
I just might point out that a number of people who attend this meeting also attend the RTPC, so it might be, there'll probably be opportunity to add comments through that process.
Okay, yeah, good point, good point.
But for those who don't attend the RTPCs, if we just make that part of our agenda, like it's going to go to your RTPC, you might want to tune into that public meeting to do your comments for the first draft or whatever wasn't going to come here. Could be inclusive.
Okay, yeah, thanks, that would work for me. Can you remember Riley?
Yeah, I don't think it probably needs to go to the RTPCs twice, but I think if it's going to go somewhere twice, it would probably be this body. We might want to review first, and then it goes out to the RTPCs, and then if it does like substantially change, maybe come back before then it starts working the way up the CCTA totem pole.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this particular item here? Okay, I do have a couple other comments, Colin. In the task 1.4, this may come under or be under parking and storage, but I do recall with micromobility, there's been questions about like right of way, questions, or considering that aspect, considering right of way on the street or the sidewalk to implement or to install either the micromobility device, or if it's a bike share with docking stations. So I don't know if you're already considering that under parking and storage, but just something to consider this right of way. And then my last comment is under 1.3 with the stakeholders, I do see for the county that there's sustainability and public health are called out specifically. So just curious how the reason why they're called out separately, or what their role is as a stakeholder. And I would add this, yeah, county, I guess it's county staff, you know, if you're interested in having them included, definitely could coordinate with them. But I'm just curious why they were called out explicitly in the in this.
Sure. So the County Board of Supervisors in 2020 adopted a formal state of emergency for the climate. And to my knowledge, we're still in that status. And so from a perspective of greenhouse gas emissions reduction and kind of balancing different needs and wants, that was the thought. And then also from a public health perspective and individual exercise, CCTA has been keeping up to speed on kind of the benefits of scooters versus bikes versus e-bikes kind of thing. And in general, the proportion of a fleet that is more majority bike as opposed to scooter, there's not quite the public health benefits from scooters. You're not pedaling or really doing a whole lot. So wanting to make sure that everyone kind of has a seat at the table to make sure that, we're empowering our community to, maximize community benefit. That's the thought.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, thank you. Then Vice Chair Weeks.
Before you jump, just one last thing. One thing I forgot to mention is when we were running the bird program for San Ramon, we put a lot of energy into try to come up with specific incentivization of users, users of concern, youth, students, those kind of things. Coming up with a price per minute, those kinds of things to make it more attractive to people, try to make it simple. So I think that there's a pricing and slash incentivization component that we should make sure we include in this first initial tranche of requests so they could gather those things and then maybe come up with a path for us and 501 Contra Costa and other organizations to be able to continue to incentivize use for people that might not be able to afford it. Because I think that we had that comment a lot, is that, just like Uber, it's a little too expensive to use on a daily basis for a lot of people. So if you can come up with a path for them to use it, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, any other committee member comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm just checking to see if we have any public comment, including the committee members who are attending remotely.
Thank you. We do have one public comment from Candace Evans.
Yes, so I do have a question, Colin. I know that you said that our input regarding the timeline, if we suggested to speed it up, how I got a chance to kind of chime in a year or two ago to San Jose's projects and programs, and what I noticed that they were able to allow the smaller cities to handle their own. However, would there be a possibility that we could speed up the process of having doing like a sample run for the smaller cities? I know some smaller cities can handle that. I know the timeline was December 2026. During the summer and early fall is probably ideal a lot of times because you get the youth, you get a lot more data from my perspective. Obviously, I'm kind of new at the program, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think I would recommend smaller cities like Orinda, Moraga, Lafayette, San Pablo, as what I've noticed for Orinda, Moraga, as some of the parents have already began to publicly make their opinions on the kids doing the e-bikes. And that kind of coincides with what we're doing. So if they had an opinion, whether they're opposed to it, or a lot of them were a little upset, just to be honest, because the kids were not using protocol with safety. But I feel like if we would kind of speed this up during the summer when the kids are actually free and out of school, then they can see the safety and we can gain data from that process, if that makes sense. If I'm making sense in combining or comparing both of them put together. And Moraga as well, a lot of parents, but a lot of the parents who were opposed to it were actually supportive because they were like, maybe the kids need to see a better example, but where they're gonna see this from. And so I love this. I think it's amazing. It's needed, especially with working parents around and you see the comfortability of this program. But at the same time, I think doing a hard lunch for everywhere in the county would be just kind of I do think smaller cities should go first and kind of tap your foot in, and then that way um when you're looking at data from larger cities, you're already gathering so much information.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Any other public comments?
We do not have any other public comments. Thank you.
Okay, all right. We'll move on to the next item, item 4B, which is an update on the Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee bylaws. And this item is also going to be presented by Colin Clark.
Okay, bear with me for a second while I share screen. Okay, so the CBPAC bylaws from 2011, to my knowledge, have not been updated since then. There was the grant application for FY22 SS4A, Safe Streets and Roads for All, committed to updating the bylaws, in particular to address things like safety and Vision Zero, safe system approach. So this is an opportunity to address that and other opportunities. There are some other jurisdictions that have more recently kind of clarified their purpose and role. For example, does the CBPAC want to address complete streets? In its name, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the name. It's actually already in the bylaws from 2011. But shifting from a bike and ped terminology to an active transportation to be inclusive of things like micromobility, and also an opportunity to potentially, specifically name things within the bylaws of like pod bikes, and also the role of micromobility devices on transit, both on the platform, but also on the vehicle or outside the vehicle, that kind of stuff. That's something that the micromobility previous agenda item, may address as well. And so this just kind of clarifies some of that, but, open to ideas on all of this. The way it is now versus the way proposed, which is, up for discussion today with you all. And then on the right-hand side, you see AAC, so that's the Accessibility Advisory Committee, which recently updated their bylaws. So in general, I tried to put together like a crosswalk, if you will, a matrix, so you can see the existing versus proposed, and then comparing it to another committee that recently updated theirs, so we can kind of bring committees to be more consistent kind of thing, but depending on the topic of each committee, it doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same. But just going through a high-level summary overview on this slide, you all can, have a discussion on each of these items. I'll just kind of do a broad overview to hopefully get the conversation started. But one thing that has been discussed with staff, because, there are, keeping in mind that CCTA and Measure J 2004 through 2034, there's, limited staff resources kind of thing. So just kind of keeping that in mind as we're, coordinating on the bylaws and what the committee reviews and how often they review it type of thing. But the committee name here, you see the way it is now is the Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, CBPAC, which is commonly confused with the Countywide Bicycle Advisory Committee, which the county is the liaison for local agencies countywide for a TDA 3 perspective. So it's a particular funding program, the Transportation Development Act, Article 3, TDA 3. So that's an annual allocation and programming and allocation process. And so, some people don't even know the CBPAC exists, in part because of the terminology of names. So this is an opportunity, if you all want, to try to clarify some of that stuff. Going over here to the way proposed, again, it doesn't have to be in the name, complete streets by any means. It can just kind of be short and sweet. Active Transportation Advisory Committee, ATAC or ATAC, I don't know. You all feel free to come up with whatever acronym and pronunciation you want. But these are just kind of ideas to get the conversation started. And then, so going down to purpose and authorization. Currently the bylaws address bicycles, walking, pedestrians. Obviously, we have specific members that represent youth, and then there's one that addresses seniors and people with disabilities. But the way that AAC has gone with their accessibility advisory commission or committee bylaws is using the definition of older adults with a specific definition in their bylaws. And so if there's specific words or terms that you all would like to include in the bylaws for definition, this is an opportunity to do so. But I would also encourage that we kind of almost purposely be vague in some cases so that we can be inclusive and not, accidentally exclude certain items kind of thing. So there's a balance of how you might address that from a policy perspective in the bylaws. But we could be, the CBPAC could choose to be consistent with some of the terminology that the Office of Accessibility and Equity is using when it comes to older adults versus seniors kind of thing. But open to input on that stuff. And in the middle, you see here the proposed bylaws would address Vision Zero, the safe system approach, the policy resolution 21-40-G as amended, which is the Vision Zero policy countywide. It could address non-vehicular modes, including pod bikes, on rail, on transit, as I mentioned earlier, but also electric mobility, micro-mobility. the bylaws could address things like performance data monitoring and mapping. This is an opportunity with the data side of things to, work together across agencies to, share data, and then some of the tools that CCTA has invested in to leverage machine learning and artificial intelligence. This could address some of that. It doesn't necessarily need to be specifically in the bylaws by any means, but it's just thoughts of what may have been technology in 2011 versus today, might be quite a bit different. So just trying to address or at least bring up for conversation these other ideas. Online information exchange using the website, for example, socioeconomic equity, the countywide bike and ped plan, and the work plan associated with that. So there was the 2018 adopted plan, and at that time, the CBPAC had, in addition with TCC and the authority board, selected, 3 main priority areas, the third of which is micromobility, which is why we're hoping to move forward on that. But the idea would be that similar to when that plan gets updated, the work plan could be discussed, a policy agenda could be discussed from the CBPAC, Contra Costa Water District, there's the open air canals and the possibility for future bicycle and pedestrian access. The bylaws or the policy agenda could address these types of things, flood control channels. Alameda County, where I grew up, I guess I took it for granted that the flood control channels are open for bike and ped access, and CCTA has had conversations with the county and the flood control district. So there's an interest in studying that and evaluating the possibility of that. That's something that could be in the policy agenda or that kind of thing. Moving down to members, 13 total is the current. I mentioned seniors and the different representatives. There's the advocacy organization, 1 citizen per subregion, 1 staff per subregion, 1 county. And so if this group wants to discuss, like, maybe there should be a public works perspective in addition to a planning perspective, but ex officio, so maybe non-voting kind of thing. So the county still gets, that representation through the county planner, but also has a seat. But, this also comes into question with like staffing resources and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to make these sort of commitments in the bylaws. It's just ideas to get the conversation started. There was suggestions that, maybe someone from Board of Education or schools, students, administrators, who should, who might represent the different stakeholders from this proposed active transportation perspective. Bike share operations experience, that's for you, Vice Chair Weeks. Just like this opportunity of addressing, there's, some folks who might have certain experience that you get to check more than one box, so to speak, in terms of representation, which is nice. And I think that was something that was mentioned in the AAC, the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Appointments, renewals, expirations, responsibility, on the appointing body, making that very clear in the proposed bylaws. In terms of meeting dates and meeting times, CCTA internally is discussing the possibility of like a 10 o'clock start instead of an 11 o'clock start. So there's that. And then questions of term duration, term limits, consecutive terms, and voting. Right now, the bylaws have a two-thirds majority required. If there's a bylaws amendment, that can stay the same, or this CBPAC can consider a simple majority for all votes. It's up to you all to discuss. I think in the case of AAC, they included, I believe, two-thirds for any sort of removal of an officer or of the member from a committee, the kind of what-if scenarios, plausible scenarios that may or may not happen kind of thing, and influence on outcomes. So, you know, some of our members in the past have had an interest in, you know, coordinating with, you know, how does the CBPAC views and perspective and policy agenda type of thing get advanced. And so there are existing ways to do that, you know, through the TCC and also to the board itself. You know, we've had members show up in attendance in person at an authority board meeting that included, for example, the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge bike path pilot. So, you know, people can avail themselves of those opportunities, and the chair and vice chair can continue coordination, which we've, you know, discussed in the past of, you know, how that all goes about. And so if you want to kind of consider other ideas with the bylaws, and instead of maybe an annual report back, maybe thinking of quarterly or something like that, depending on you know, how frequently the CBPAC meets. I see our staff, Matt Kelly, has his hand up, so I want to give him an opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Colin. So I just want to, you know, preface this. We're really open to talking about, you know, these ideas and ways of expanding, you know, the types of activities that this group can be involved in. But when it comes to some of these things, we are going to have to run them by our legal counsel. Right now, it's really just kind of brainstorming and discussion. We can't make any decisions today. Everything has to be run through our legal counsel before we can make any changes to language or anything to do with the bylaws. So just want to preface that and consider that in your discussions, because there are limitations to what changes we can make to the bylaws. But we do want to hear what you're interested in, and then we can bounce that off of our legal counsel and come back with some recommendations for changes that reflect your comments plus, you know, legal counsel's input. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And one last point on this meeting dates and times. So the thought was, you know, retaining a minimum of 6 meetings kind of regularly scheduled, but given that the December meeting would, you know, more than likely, you have the opportunity to decide, you know, either we make it a practice of, you know, doing it probably not the 4th Monday in every December, which we could address in the bylaws and in coordination with legal counsel, or you know, we could push for a pre-Thanksgiving November meeting annually kind of thing. But in general, from, you know, we've coordinated with administrative staff to try to understand, you know, limiting the burden on an administrative staff, but also if there needs to be a special meeting, there can be a special meeting scheduled kind of thing. So, yeah, that's it. Plenty more to respond to and looking forward to your input. Thanks.
All right, thank you for all that, all the information, Colin, and for giving the committee members opportunity to comment on the bylaws. So I'll first turn it over to committee members if they have any questions or comments for Colin on the information he presented. Okay, Vice Chair Weeks, and then Committee Member Riker after.
Sorry, I feel like I'm talking too much, but just put your hand up if it's too much. Stop. Okay, so it's great to have input on this to start out with. Thank you. And I appreciate the framework you've laid out here, trying to see what you're trying to accomplish. So it sounds like we might be on the same page, and we're just trying to kind of come to a consensus on how to move towards that. You know, as you're talking, I'm just going to throw out a bunch of ideas, and maybe this will inspire others to say some stuff. But I think one thing that keeps coming up in my mind is how we're trying to glom on to the kind of e-mobility component piece. And there's this portion also of e-bicycle storage too. So I always bring up these kind of concepts of e-lockers and secure bike storage that might also be augmented with electric charging for our brothers and sisters who are on e-bikes and need to charge them. Or I could charge my headlight while I'm in there, who knows? But you know, something like that, that kind of reaches that branch across. And this kind of idea of kind of spanning things keeps coming up my head. Like there's a lot of barriers that we're trying to span. Like that there's this, whenever anything comes up with like Caltrans improvements for freeway overcrossings, and there's a city that has space on both sides or two different cities, that connection, that spanning of the highway, that connecting of people across the highway, I think that's super important. And it would be really interesting to have kind of a role in that when those things come up, and have that come before us as an opportunity to give input on how to span a highway or span a waterway, like the Richmond Bridge, or span a city road with like the East Bay Regional Parks trails. You know, what happens when that trail emerges onto a city street briefly? And I think that the way that it does that was developed probably a while ago. And as cities and as parks, I think we've been trying to work on the best way to make those safe. And you know, every time I hear that robotic voice telling me cars may not stop, I'm thinking, is there a better way to do this? And so this idea of kind of spanning barriers and connecting people, you know, I mean, maybe there's a way we could include that in the language. I was trying to think if we could be a coordinating committee, maybe, rather than just an advisory committee, something where we're coordinating bicycle and pedestrian plans throughout the county. See if you can throw a C in there and spell something fun. I think there's a combination of things there that we can do, that we can add a lot of value and improve what's already happening out there, and take the next step and be there for CCTA to be able to bounce ideas off as experts. So I'll stop there, and maybe there's other ideas.
Go ahead, Colin.
Chair, yeah, Chair, thanks. Just to quickly respond, and then please feel free others to chime in. One thought was using like complete networks as opposed to complete streets, but yeah, kind of trying to find this balance of trying to get certain messaging across without being too wordy type of thing. You should have seen how much longer the acronym got. It was really bad. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm taking notes so we can run a draft through legal counsel and then bring something back to you all for consideration. But yeah, something about connections, coordination is something we can we can discuss, and looking forward to hearing what others have to say as well.
Okay, Committee Member Riker.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the, starting by saying active transportation instead of just bicycle and pedestrian is a good move. I'd also like to say, you know, coordination, that's great. And also bringing items here that, you know, we could help talk about how a certain project enhances the culture of bicycling and walking. You know, we always have these projects that are building the infrastructure that we need, but then we don't always talk about what other actions could be taken to, you know, encourage people to do it and to take advantage of it and create this culture. I mean, we're doing this walk and roll program at schools right now, which is changing. I mean, roads haven't been changed, but the culture of these families at these schools is changing, not through any of infrastructure, but just through programming and encouragement. So, I don't know, just bringing in the culture of active transportation is something that I feel is sometimes overlooked. So, we could talk about that a little bit.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Colin? Okay, Committee Member Riker, and then okay, I'll go, Committee Member Sonatino.
It was very brief in there, but I do like the idea of, I don't know, having PTA or some sort of school board people represented somehow. I don't know how that exactly works out, but I know I'm really active in my kids' school, and I would love to like sit on a board as a school voice for, like, I don't know, things that happen around the schools. I vote for putting that in. I don't know if that counts for anything.
All right, thanks. And Committee Member Riley.
So these are kind of the broad strokes, and then you all would come back with a draft of the actual like bylaws that we would then sort of wordsmith and stuff. Is that okay? So yeah, I'm in favor of changing the name, I believe. I think it's more sort of inclusive of what we're talking about. I like the idea of listing the things, sort of the statutory things that would definitely come to us, like, you know, like the checklist, the, you know, CBPP, the, you know, vision, anything that has to do with like Vision Zero and all that stuff. I like, you know, sort of listing that stuff in the bylaws. But I also agree having a catch-all clause in there for, you know, any other bike and ped type things also being in there. Do you mind scrolling down to the term limits part? So could you just walk through the proposed term limits here again?
So, yeah, so this one could be proposed to get similar to other committees kind of thing, including the Accessibility Advisory Committee that recently updated their bylaws to kind of ensure more democratic representation. And looking at different jurisdictions throughout the Bay Area, there are term limits that have been proposed and adopted as part of different committees. And so it's for this committee's consideration as it relates to term limits for officers, term limits for members. This is more of a, this bottom one's less about, you know, term limits and more about, you know, just making sure people are showing up to meetings and actually representing their constituents kind of thing. And this is taken from a similar committee that, and then I guess this is a section of state law that that the AAC references in its bylaws, and then their term limits, I believe, include a 6-year maximum.
For all members?
I think that, I don't recall if it's for members or officers or both. You know what, I might have it pulled up.
I think my concern with, if there are, if we're expecting various agencies to appoint staff to regularly attend this, there's often like the staff member whose job is most closely aligned and sort of is the go-to person for bicycle and pedestrian type issues. And if that staff person stays there, at the agency for longer than 9 years, it wouldn't make sense to, have them termed out and then have someone whose job maybe isn't as relevant be the representative for that staff position. So that's just kind of my main concern about that. I guess I could understand, I'm not looking to get rid of our officers or anything like that, but I can understand maybe limiting the term of the officers or something like that. But as far as like member appointees, I don't know. I'm open to having my mind changed on that, but that was just kind of like, if it wasn't me, I have Leah and stuff, but like, yeah, I don't know. That's one concern. And then I also had another question about the voting. In our current bylaws, it says that we're kind of on consensus, because we usually don't vote on much here outside of like the consent calendar and voting on minutes and stuff like that. I like having the default as consensus, but then if there is a need for a vote, then I'm good with, simple majority, but I still like having to say that we aim for consensus on here. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go to Committee Member Lannis.
Thank you. There was a mention of public health. I would love to have representation of public health. I think it's an issue that of public health. On the active transportation portion, I know of people in the community that I talk with that consider that riding an e-mobility device is not, they don't consider that to be active transportation. So I'm not sure how to be inclusive. Although I love the term active transportation, and within that, also there's a term that I've heard of called active aging, related to those folks who want to walk and bike as they age, and something to, just wanted to throw it out there for consideration. Thanks.
Any other members? Member Byrne?
Yeah, so thank you. Definitely in line with the name change. I like active. How that ties into who is part of the committee, or like how we want to frame this, but for active transportation, thinking about the transit operators and how from that county level we would incorporate these additional members, and whether or not active is a very all-encompassing phrase. So it's making sure that as the goal of this committee is represented by the title and then by those members, those 13 members as well.
Did it come?
Did someone just say something? I just heard something come over the speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's Bill. Hi, Bill. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know how to mute. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
mute you.
We'll ignore that. Unless you really want to say it.
Yeah.
But are there any other committee members that'd like to comment at this time, or that got interrupted?
Yeah.
Byrne, continue.
Colin, could you scroll up a little bit more? So so looking at what this committee would discuss, like that Vision Zero safe system approach, I know the county has, same with every jurisdiction, but they have their own Vision Zero's working group. So just understanding where we might be duplicating efforts or where our role is needed.
Yeah, just to quickly respond to that. Yeah, there's an existing countywide Vision Zero working group. CVZWG. And the policy resolution has been adopted and revised, and amended by the authority board to clarify the role of that group. So that isn't necessarily proposed to change in any way. I think, but yeah, open to input, yeah, but we certainly have no intention on duplicating work, let alone adding bureaucracy. That is not the intent.
Okay, sorry, I stepped out here. Okay, Committee Member Wilson.
I just want to add to some of the comments about the name change, and I think the active transportation is more encompassing and includes some of that connectivity and network piece. And then I'm hearing what Corey's saying about the term limits. Limited perspective here from the Park District, but we don't have transportation-related staff. So I think, I've been in my position for 9 years this year. I haven't been on this committee for 9 years, but it's definitely feasible. It would definitely be somebody in our department, which is 3 people who would be on this committee. So it's possible that somebody could serve for more than 9 years. So I don't know if there's a ability to, add language in there about, if the committee votes for that person to remain on the committee, that they possibly could.
I'll go next with Committee Member Weeks and then Riker.
Sorry to cut in line there. Just 2 little things. You mentioned, you were talking about this earlier, the engineering piece, and this is something that I haven't had a lot of traction on locally, but it seems like there's more interest in it, is the use of kind of cell phones and technology in the hands of someone who is disabled or a sensitive road user of some sort, like a cyclist or pedestrian, that intersections could sense them approaching and react. And I think that might be a piece of work in there for us, being that translator between the human side of active mobility and the engineering side of the technology side of stuff. So I guess for that 3 sides, oh well. So then I want to mention that. And then a trend in our city right now is it seems like a lot of things are getting subsumed under the climate flag and sustainability, and formerly sustainability, more climate now. So, I mean, maybe there's a way to look at our acronym to have it be a climate or a sustainability acronym that includes a climate or sustainability supporting transportation piece. I don't know if that dovetails well with what CCTA is planning to do, but it seems to be where a lot of passion and energy is coming into the city as far as volunteer work and our community. So I want to add a couple things there. Thanks.
Okay, and next, Committee Member Riker.
Yeah, I was just going to make a quick comment about, the comments about the term limits. I think I wouldn't put you have a maximum 9 years. It might be 9 consecutive years, but maybe, the cities rotate who they send in, but it could be the same person over a span of 20-year career. Could be back.
Okay, next, Committee Member Olson.
Yes, thank you. I agree with naming the committee something to do with active transportation. It seems to me that the big picture of our committee should be to make it more convenient to walk or bike or use micro-mobility than it is to use a car, right? This is a gigantic change, but it should start here. Thank you.
Okay, any other committee member comments? Okay, seeing none, I do have a couple of comments, Colin. One, I guess it's all the way at the bottom. One more just curious, because I do see on the existing, I guess that second column, there's an annual reporting back, and I don't recall I guess if you could provide more details about this reporting, the annual reporting. I do see it in the bylaws, but I realize I don't recall seeing an annual reporting. So yeah, if I do, might have a follow-up to that. But yeah, can you tell us more about the annual reporting?
Sure, so I'll pull up the existing bylaws. Let's see, annual. Oh, yeah, so it's encouragement to report back to their appointing bodies on at least an annual basis and more frequently if warranted. So you can choose to change this however you recommend, kind of thing. But it's an opportunity to have that conversation about what should that look like, or what do you want that to look like?
Okay, thanks for clarification. And I realize it's CBPAC members reporting back to their councils. So I was under the impression that meant, CBPAC reporting to the board, the authority board with kind of annual activities. So thanks for that clarification. And then the second question I have, just with the, if you scroll up a little bit, with the meetings themselves, I guess it's kind of cut off at the top. Oh, yeah. So about the months, I do see it's, I guess, that big change, because we're going to the other months instead of, starting in January, you're starting in February. So I'm curious why that changed. Then also, in addition to the December, there may, I don't think folks here are going to want to meet on the end of December at the holidays, but also how does it work with the August meeting if CCTA goes dark in August?
Right. Yeah, this doesn't need to change. It's just an idea to get the conversation started, kind of thing. The January and summer ones and November, often get canceled over the years, kind of thing. So the idea was an attempt at limiting the burden on administrative staff on canceling meetings, kind of thing, but it doesn't have to be that way necessarily. The idea, and in terms of the August thing, I guess there were some preliminary thoughts about if cities are dark in July, would CCTA look at the possibility of syncing up with that? I don't think any of that's been necessarily discussed or formalized, but I think that was the thinking behind a what-if scenario. But given how short the summers are with parents with children type of thing, or families with children, June would probably be, yeah, it's kind of up to you all for discussion in terms of, we can kind of keep it the same and just change it from 11 to 10, and that's one way of proposing it.
Okay, and I know this isn't the first, this isn't going to be finalized right now, so I think if we have,
Right, exactly.
yeah, additional, we could, community members, we could think about it and provide comments at a future meeting. Okay, any other committee member comments before going to public comment? Okay, Vice Chair Weeks.
Sorry, one more. I was trying to figure out where this fits, and forgive me if you already have it in here, Colin, but is there a chance or any kind of potential for us to meet with our neighboring counties, county bicycle pedestrian advisory committees? Like, have we talked about that in the past or included that in our goals to try to, annually have a representative or the proximal bicycle advisory committee speak here, or have us speak there, or at least have maybe a meeting together, just so we can kind of identify projects that are on our borders that tend to fall through the cracks and be innervating to users? Have you heard anything like that before, or do you include that in your list that I missed?
Appreciate you bringing it up. CCTA staff does make a point to coordinate with different jurisdictions, including ACTC, the Alameda County Transportation Commission, and in particular, active transportation staff. But yeah, I don't think I've heard of the proposal from CBPAC members in the past about, you know, formalizing some sort of annual, not necessarily joint meeting, but agenda item on which they would coordinate, kind of thing. It can continue to be ad hoc, I would assume, to kind of address the administrative side of things, but Matt has something to add.
Thanks, Colin. For that, I just want to note that, you know, we already have the Bay Area, you know, Regional Forum, the Active Transportation Working Group that MTC facilitates. So I don't know if you looked at the border of the county, but we have several counties surrounding us, including Sacramento, San Joaquin, Marin across the bridge. So I just want to, you know, temper expectations there, because that would be a significant amount of coordination to get all of those counties together. I would say if there's like a focus like Alameda County, I mean, which is kind of logical because we share 3 sides of the county in common, that is something that could probably be facilitated. But I would say anything beyond that, we should probably defer to the existing, you know,
Governance structure.
committee structure, government
Yeah.
structure. Yeah, thanks, Colin. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay, not trying to do a power grab or come up with some kind of insane amount of work. So I would guess there's an easier way to do it. And if you guys already are collecting that information, maybe there's some kind of reporting that we can get from this significant amount of work you guys do to, you know, get updates on the ongoing holes in connectivity that we have with surrounding counties. It's not them necessarily coming here, us going there, or having a big meeting or something like that. Maybe we have a list that's developed or something like that, that we just monitor it and look at it and, you know, help you guys keep it, you know, updated, truth check it on the ground with users and that kind of stuff. Just an idea. And I know that there's projects that I come to my top of my head right away that seem to getting short shrift on things just because they're in a weird place or they don't really fall in a particular city or whatever. So general idea there, not specific. So if there's a way we could be involved in that, how to connect the counties, then I think that'd be a great part of our goal as a committee.
All right.
I'm just going to pop in. I think, you know, some language about regional connections, I think could probably cover most of that, because I think that is important. There's, you know, there's definitely limited connections in some sides of the county. So talking.
He's frozen. I think we got the gist of it, though.
Okay, committee member Lannis, and we can go back to Matt if he gets back on. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. +1 to that comment, the network, you can't just look at your own within your limits. It gets built by looking elsewhere and outwards as well. +1 to the previous comment around PTA being sort of involved in the process or in some way, shape, or form. I think that's the future of next generations believing and actually practicing more active transportations as they see the joy of going to school simply by doing that, walking and biking to school. There are a lot of efforts around driving to school and management of that, but I hope that there will be more and more efforts towards active transportation. And then to your comment earlier, regarding a list of potential projects to see where we're at and status. And I apologize if this is already done, and very likely it's already done. But I think that from the moment I started to look at plans and look at where we're at on status of projects, we often put together a plan, and then maybe 50, 70% gets done. Very often, we don't get to 100, but there is a very long period of time for that to happen, to one, develop a process, and then to execute on it. And it's a very daunting process. I would love for us, as an example, but for jurisdictions everywhere, I'm pushing for that in my local community, to sort of have a scorecard or a list where we can check off what's done and what's not, and have regular reporting of that for transparency purposes, and so that we can keep each other accountable to see where we're at more regularly, because otherwise things fall through the cracks. I'm not sure if that's already happening, and if not, please, some considerations for that, to have more regular status updates. Thank you.
Okay. If no other community member comments, I'll move to public comment. Deanna, and I know we have a couple community members virtual, so if they have any comments as well.
We do have one public comment from Bill Keeshan.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that the active mobility name is a really great name. I think it would be interesting to see if there's any ways that we can put that into some sort of cute acronym like AMP, or something that's rolls off the tongue a little bit easier. But the one thing that I'd love to see us come up with is maybe adopting, and I don't know if it ties with it, but adopting a school and really start thinking about really just, they say start locally and think globally, but if we could just zero in on a school and have a culture program. I know that there's some folks that were talking about culture. I think we should make it a goal to try it again. I don't know if this is the right time to talk about that, but to make it a goal to have a certain rise of percentage of bicyclists. And I've seen programs that they're doing this in other states. And we've got, even here in California, we've got Davis. They've done a good job of it, and it really seems like a lot of their success on changing the culture has begun at the school level. So when you're talking about e-mobility and things like that, let's pick a school. Let's make it kind of the petri dish, to figure out how to make this work, but do it in a real world type setting. Opening up the bike lanes, for instance. That's a huge part of the success. Creating bike trains of kids biking to school, and maybe parents, acting as chaperones. If we could get to those kinds of programs, I think that would help our brand, right? And help people become more aware of what we do, as opposed to, just kicking the dirt like sometimes it feels like we're doing. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that, but that's what came to mind during this conversation.
Okay, thank you. Have we received any other public comment, or do committee members want to respond to committee member Keeshan's comment?
I do not have any other public comment. Thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, all right, thank you all for your comments on this item, and thank you, Colin, again for providing an update and receiving our comments on the bylaws. All right, so we'll move on to the next item, which is other business / information sharing. Is there anything committee members or staff would like to share?
Okay, insert what I just said into that section.
Okay, thanks, committee member Keeshan. All right, any committee member comments? All right, committee member Wilson.
Yeah, I'll just share that from April 14th to 17th in 2026, the California Trails and Greenways Conference will be held in San Ramon. And it's a conference that, is a good opportunity for urban, rural, and backcountry trail agencies and organizations, volunteers come together. So I'm sure the Iron Horse Trail will be, a focus point of events during that conference. And of course, the Park District will be very involved with other elements of the project as well, or of the conference as well. But just wanted to put that out there on your radar as it deals with both recreational and transportation trails.
Thank you. And Committee Member Wilson, can you repeat what's the name of the conference again?
Yeah, it's the California Trails and Greenways Conference, and it'll be held at the Marriott in San Ramon from April 14th to 17th.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other committee member comments? Okay, seeing none, and with this item, I don't know, Deanna, can we, extend this to the virtual participants?
Yes, we do not have any public comment
Okay,
this time.
all right. So we'll move on to the next item, which is future agenda items. Do any committee members or staff like to see an item added to the agenda? I see first here, Committee Member Riley.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the countywide transportation plan was planned on coming to this body. If not, I think it should be. Coming up with, sort of the list of programs that would potentially inform a future sales tax measure. So we're talking about, funding for implementation of a bunch of different things. And I think that it would be good to have this body, review that and make sure that active transportation is being considered.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Weeks.
I know it might be out of order, but can I make one more announcement from the previous section before we,
Yeah.
is it too late?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that the Street Smarts is going to be having their bicycle festival coming up. It's going to be Saturday, October 25th at Iron Horse Middle School Blacktop. And there'll be activities, prizes, and giveaways that are specially designed for children's ages 3 to 12. So that's Saturday, October 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Iron Horse Middle School Blacktop at 12601 Alcosta. So there should be some tasty treats and some great giveaways and some education if you got a young one that likes to scoot or anything more complicated than that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Committee Member Lannis.
If I can do an announcement that I missed before too. But I think it's important for, you might be interested, the California Active Transportation Program Symposium is coming up October 22nd and 23rd. It's physically happening in Davis, but they just announced last week that they are opening an online option and it's free. You can RSVP. They're talking about safety and the safe systems approach, the climate resilience, active transportation's role, and the future of active transportation and funding in California, and other important topics that you can check out, and it's free. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, if no other announcements, we'll move back to future agenda items. All right, any other committee members want to see an item discussed at a future meeting? Okay, hearing none, I guess we've reached the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. So this meeting is adjourned at 12:30. So thank you all.
Recording stopped.